Hey y'all, busy soaping day for me because I literally did my anti-panty best-selling soap earlier today, but I don't know, I just couldn't sit still and I was like, let's make some more. So here we are. I didn't used to have a spontaneous bone in my body, being an earth sign. I was just real stable. Like, we just gonna stick with what we know, right? Okay. Now I'm just like, no, let's do all the new things. And so, like, I just suddenly got this idea for a new fragrance. I'm looking over here because I'm like, what is it? Okay, the soap is going to be called Silken Sorcery. Let me slow down. Going too fast. Okay. And the fragrance is going to be a mixture between lavender, strawberry, and vanilla butter. I think I decided that I was going to call it Strawberry Lavender Cream. Lavender Strawberry Cream. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Anywho, I mixed it up. When I'm mixing up, I probably explained this in another video when I was doing another new fragrance, but we're gonna talk about it anyway. So when I'm creating a new fragrance or I have an idea for a new fragrance, I take all the fragrances that I'm intending to include, and then I start with an equal amount of each one, and then I take a whiff, and then I go, do I need more of one, less of one, whatever, and then I kind of go from there. So I was stirring it up earlier and I was like, oh, we done knocked this out the park. I made everybody in the house smell it. I think it's gonna be a good one. So I'm gonna go ahead and quit yapping and start making this up. Okay, now you know what it's time for. Let's start making this soap. First, I'm going to measure out my lye, and then I'm going to turn around and measure out my liquid, which of course is going to be aloe vera juice, because that's what all of these soaps are made with. Once I get that poured out, next I go in with my sodium lactate, which is just liquid salt, followed by sugar. Both of these are used to help the soap we starting already, the soap to stay fluid, because this is fluid hot process or countertop hot process, and both of those, like I said, help with fluidity. Also, they help with bubbles and to make the soap a longer lasting, harder bar. So here I am adding the lye to my liquid, never the other way around, and then I'm going to stir that. It's pretty milky, so I like to stir it until it's a little less milky looking. Since it's not water, it's not going to be all the way clear. And then I like to go ahead and combine the lye solution with my melted oils around 200 degrees, no less than 180. Less than 180, I feel like I just have problems. So I'm gonna go ahead, carefully pour that in there. Once I get that all in there, I am going to start stick blending. I like to stick blend the trace. Usually I get it as thick a trace as possible, which usually just means stick blend until it's nice and thick. So it doesn't take very long. The secret there is because I use olive oil pomace, and it just brings it to a nice quick trace. It's actually what I've always used because I don't want to spend all day stick blending. Alright, so now that I've gotten that to trace, I'm going to go ahead and cover this. You notice my lid is missing the handle, so that's why you see me doing this trickery with the chopstick and scooting it off. So it was starting a volcano, I can't let it get too high, so I'm taking my whisk and just stirring that down. You see it trying to come up over that lip and sabotage me, but we're not going to let that happen, y'all. We're not going to let it's going to try real hard, but we're going to keep stirring and stirring until it gets back down where it belongs. That's right. So I continue to go ahead and just stir. I feel like the more often I stir, the faster it goes. Perhaps that's in my mind. I don't really care. But this is what I do. This is how it's going. So it's starting to want to look like it's doing applesauce. I'm going to call that false applesauce. It ain't there yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and wait it out, and then come back and stir again, doing my little makeshift opening because I don't have a handle. It's a little frustrating, I ain't gonna lie. So we're looking a little closer to the applesaucey phase here, and I'm just gonna give it a nice stir, keep it going. You can see that it's gotten thicker, and the consistency and the appearance is starting to shift over to that mashed potato stage. And so we're just going to keep on going because that means we are headed right in the correct direction there, and that's the finishing. So I just like to fold that over, and then here we go. Finally, we're getting to the end. You can see it changing over to that Vaseline stage where it starts to look a little shiny, a little bit more in the opaque direction. Well, not opaque, translucent. Oh my god, I cannot say words. I've been doing so well. Okay, anyway, so we're getting to the done stage. I also feel like it has a certain scent that unfortunately I cannot describe, but after you've made enough hot processed soap, you will recognize it too, I'm pretty sure. So now that the soap is done, it is time to add the full fat Greek yogurt. You actually don't need to make it full fat or Greek, but you do want it plain. Trust me on that. So I'm just measuring that out. I started doing it with this big spatula instead of the metal spoon because I found that it just made everything so much easier and cleaner to do it that way. So you add the yogurt because it also helps with the fluidity of the soap, and also it's just a nice touch. Like, yogurt is bomb in everything. Okay, so removing that top with my new little method here, it really did get on my nerves, just so y'all know. And I'm gonna plop that yogurt right in there, and then take my whisk and dunk it in there and stir it in. I want to completely incorporate it into my soap, and it really, as you will see as I stir, it just gets really fluid. It's nice and liquidy there for me. Can we, never mind, I'm not going to talk about my made up words. You already know what this is. So anyway, I let that sit while I go ahead and put together my additives that I did not do beforehand. I usually do, but I've just really failed at preparation this time, and so here we are. So now I'm going to measure out my colorants. This one is spicy tomato, I want to say is what it's called. I meant to look up these names before I got on here, and then you know what I did do? Well, what I didn't do was look up the names. Anywho, so next, I actually think this is called Peacock Blue. They sent emails with their new or different colors that they're offering that week on sale, and I was like, how pretty. So I bought it because I don't have any self-control. Moving on to the third color, I think it's called Goldfinger, but don't quote me on that. Anywho, it's Mad Micas. They're all Mad Micas, and you can tell because they love to give their things preposterous names. I feel a kinship to them because guess what I do? Okay, so anyway, now I'm just going to mix in these colorants. I added them to some oil that was reserved from my actual recipe in the batch, and it's all the olive oil. So give that a nice stir. I feel like mixing them in, well, I looked it up before I started using mica powders, but I do agree that stirring them into reserve oils from the recipe just helps them disperse throughout the soap better instead of having unattractive clumps of powder in your soap. Nobody wants that. Okay, so now that we've gotten those stirred up, I think I poured my fragrance off camera because I ain't see myself pour it, but I did. Okay. Oh, well, I poured it, but I mean I measured it off camera is what I mean, and then I poured it in here just then. Okay, so stirring that up, I just want you to know how incredible it was smelling when I stirred this up. I remember it like it was yesterday, though it was months ago. Okay, giving that a good stir. You want to make sure you thoroughly stir the fragrance in because you don't want loose fragrance oil at the bottom of your pot when you go to separate your soap out to mix your colorants. Okay, because that's real frustrating and I don't like it. Let me stop tripping over my words. That's so frustrating. Mouth, be agreeable, would you? Okay, so this is my big pail, one of my big pails, and I'm just going to measure out some soap here, and I'm going to measure out 2 more pails full of soap similarly so that I can go ahead and throw my colors in there and mix those all up. The more color, the more soap. So, you know, I really don't remember. I wanted it to be more red than anything because, you know, strawberry. Okay. So anyway, just dumping those colors in there, and then I just take my spatulas and give it a good firm stir. Try to make sense out of my nonsensical conversation because, you know, my ADHD has me all over the place all the time. You want to thoroughly stir in the colorant so you don't have random bits of uncolored soap in your bars. It's not fun. It's not cute. It's not attractive. We're not here for it. We're not. All the things we are here for, that's not one of them. Okay, so getting that good thorough stir, it helps, you know, the more fluid the soap is, obviously, the better the color gets incorporated. That blue is just gorgeous. Okay, let me stop. Moving right along, I really just thought these colors would be beautiful next to each other, and so there we go. So now I'm just gonna dump my molds here on the table. What are they, loaf molds? That's what they look like. That's what we're gonna call them. And I'm just gonna start pouring. So red is the one that I have the most of, so I'm starting with it. And I just want to dump a healthy amount of red into the bottom of each mold. And I like, as I've discussed a bunch of times, I'm going to say, to pour my colors in like a contrasting order. And so I don't really have some organized way. It's just the one that's furthest away in color goes next. And that's really, and then the one furthest away in color from that one is third, if there are 3 or 4. It works easier if there's only 2, because those are the only 2 options. Anywho, so I'm just carefully adding these colors in next to each other. They're really lining up very nicely, and so I'm just going on and on until I get all of the soap firmly poured in there. And I'm just going to bang them down on the counter just to make sure they all gel together, and make sure that I don't have any spaces in the soap that would kind of appear like holes in the bars when I cut them. So here's my pixie dust. I gotta have that glitter. It's my favorite. And then I just like to go in and swirl the tops with a metal chopstick, because I just think it's prettier than doing nothing. That's really all. You don't gotta do that if you don't want. So that's the tops. They're gorgeous. I put them in the freezer for like 5 hours ish, and then when they were thawed, I demolded them. Sometimes I demold them when they're frozen, whatever, when they're cold. And then I always wait to cut after they've thawed regardless, because as I've discussed in every other video, I broke one of my cutters trying to cut soap while it was frozen, and I won't ever do it again. So we're just gonna bring that cutter down on this first batch of soap, and it turned out really nice. I love the way those colors mix together. So I'm going to take my towel, wipe off the wire, and scoop my soap down to make sure it's flush against the cutter, and I'm going to bring it down again. I wipe it off with the paper towel just to make sure I don't drag any remnants against the new soap that I'm cutting. And so here we are. These are all of my bars. I really love how they turned out. And if you like what you saw, please consider subscribing to my channel and clicking the notification bell so you don't miss my regular uploads. Thanks for coming by, and see you later.